Welcome to Fans Without Borders. My name is Ray.
And I'm Brent.
How's it going, Brent?
Good, good. I can't complain too much. The Chiefs game that I was supposed to be watching in a few hours got rescheduled till tomorrow due to some COVID issues on both teams. So I'm not super thrilled about the rescheduling there, but obviously their health and safety of the players is more important. So I'm just glad I will be able to watch it still.
Both teams?
Yeah, there was somebody on the Chiefs practice squad that also had it.
Oh,
I don't remember his name.
Well, it's like when a cancellation, because it's the second game. That's been Pittsburgh, Tennessee was also canceled because the Titans have a massive outbreak.
Yeah,
like
Titans I saw
players.
like a whole bunch of people, which really stinks for that team.
Yeah. Fortunately, it does. I haven't heard anything because they played the Vikings last week. Haven't heard anything about them. They seem to be in the clear with respect to that. So I don't know, but yeah. When you see a game, especially like nowadays, it's like, and this NFL game postponed, you're like, oh great, who got it? Like that. As soon as I saw the indicator, I was like, who got COVID?
Yeah.
And I will say this: we don't like the circumstances of why this is happening, but enjoy your fourth win of the season.
Well,
you're not needing.
I wasn't. Whatever. I will put the Chiefs up against any other team right now if they play like they did last week. Not 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago they squeaked by and they did not deserve that win. But last week they played good.
True, but unfortunately, for Patriots fans and unfortunately in general, the player in question that has COVID-19 for New England is their starting quarterback.
Yeah, and that really sucks.
Their new starting quarterback, Cam Newton, who has been playing well for them to start off. So, yeah, that's unfortunate. Hopefully, of course, wish him speedy recovery, which I suspect he will have, hopefully. Haven't heard any... this isn't the first, other league, baseball has had COVID. They postponed a number of games in the regular season because of COVID outbreaks. They're in the playoffs now. Hockey and basketball have did it perfectly. Hockey,
the bubble,
was exactly the bubble. Hockey everybody was in Edmonton and Toronto, no positive cases at all, and the NBA finals they're essentially almost over. The Lakers are going to sweep Miami. Which I'm sad for Duncan Robinson. He's a Michigan man. Go Blue. But that's you're playing LeBron James and Anthony. You're done. There's no way. I'm sorry. There's no. Sorry, Hannibal, if you're listening to our show. Superfan K. He's a huge Heat fan. But yeah. So yeah. Sports. I'm still weird. Well, sports are still kind of weird, right? Like as far as everything that is happening in relation to we've got football again and. Weirdly enough, football is on time compared to all of these other sports. You know what I mean? It's like everybody else had a delay or baseball truncated its season heavily. It cut it more than in half. It went from 162 to 60 games for the regular season. And we just awarded a Stanley Cup champion in late September. Right? Mm-hmm. It's what? Okay. This just doesn't, and we're gonna and the NBA champion will be awarded in October. Neither of their seasons are gonna start until next year, the following season. So it's this is, I don't know. It's a weird place. It's a really weird place we're in. And my college football team hasn't started yet, while a number of others have. So, but anyway, we're all just trying to stay safe, doing what we can as always. But yeah, no, I don't know. And everything else cool?
Yeah, everything else good. Everything else good.
Watch anything else fun? Or?
Enola Holmes, most recently.
You did see Enola Holmes.
Yep.
Okay.
I showed it to my wife, showed her just little trailer of it. It's do you want to watch this with me? We did. We liked it. We both liked it. We would both happily take a sequel. So it was, I was thinking about it. I don't know if I've ever seen Henry Cavill in another movie. And so... outside of Superman, as another character, I know he's been in several of them. I just haven't seen them, and yes, that includes Mission Impossible. But no, he was a good Sherlock. I enjoyed it. And Enola Holmes, the actress, forgive me, her name's escaping
Millie
me.
Bobby Brown.
Thank you. She did fantastic job. So it was a great movie. I really enjoyed it. My wife really enjoyed it. Hopefully they do more.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's there's franchise possibility with that particular film, and it's one of those where like we think Warner Brothers had it because it's like it's a Legendary Pictures thing, and the movie was actually done and sold to Netflix. So it's like Greyhound. It's like Greyhound. Right. You know how like Sony did Greyhound and then they sold it to Apple because of the pandemic. This wasn't because of the pandemic. Netflix had Enola Holmes before the pandemic started, but it was a movie that was not. It's not a true Netflix original.
It wasn't Netflix Studios that created it.
Right.
Which
exactly.
is, but Netflix did. They own the distribution rights for it. So
yes, and if they do sequels, it will be them.
Yes,
like it will be their production. So, but yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool. Well, all right. Getting into it, of course, we want to remind everybody that we are part of Squadcast Media, which includes DC Film Squadcast with Tim and Scott, DC Comics Squadcast with Jordan and Chris, the Horror Comics Podcast, which is Chris and... Is that just Chris, or is that Chris?
It's Chris's show. It's his deal.
Okay, cool. And then, of course, DC TV Squadcast, which, I gotta be honest, you ever have those moments where you have a plan in your head for how you're going to do something, and then you realize immediately that you've bitten off a bit more than you can chew?
Sure.
So, the whole retro plan, it's like, all right, you know what? Maybe I need more than 2 weeks to watch these shows just for things that are going on. The Flash episode is still happening. It's just, you know what it is? It's like, I didn't even realize this. The format that we had gotten into with DC TV Squadcast with all the new stuff had taken a change in terms of like how long between, because we were doing blocks of episodes. So really just treat it the same way. Like it's essentially the same schedule. We're going to do Flash 90. It's just going to take a bit longer than I was thinking, because it's a decent amount of stuff to... And I know that was only one season, but there are other things. Life doesn't slow down just because you want to watch a TV series.
I feel like there's a Flash pun there, but I'm going to let it go.
Fair enough. Well, I mean, you totally... I know you're wearing Spider-Man today, but...
That's true.
Which, by the way, which Spider-Man is that? Is that his particular...
It's from
Spider-Man?
The PS4 game.
Okay. Oh, okay. Cool. But anyway, so yeah, that's what's going on with DC TV Squadcast. And then, of course, we also would like to thank all of our supporters on Patreon. We really do appreciate your support. Hope that you're enjoying all the Patreon content. Brent was just talking about Enola Holmes. If you want to listen to the latest episode of Fans Without Borders Plus, Scott and I, who still do that show on occasion, did review Enola Holmes. And that is available on Patreon right now for you patrons. And it's not entirely spoiler-free. In fact, no, there's definitely spoilers in it. It is not spoiler-free. But it doesn't spoil everything. But we do give our extensive thoughts. Because, you know, me and Scott, we can't have short conversations. That just doesn't happen.
No.
We both have a great deal to say. And it's great. It's always great conversation, for sure. But, yeah, we give our thoughts on that entry. And then, of course, there's Squadcast movies, which, that's... Let's see. So, we're Sin City. That's still the next one that's going to release. And then after that, Batman Returns.
Which is recorded just in post-production. Let's call it.
And then what is the next one that we're doing?
The next one on the block is 1977 Spider-Man, which I may or may not be there. We'll find out. But I have watched it in case the timing can work out. It was not my first time seeing this movie. I knew exactly what I was getting into, and I got exactly what I expected and what I remembered.
I sincerely hope that you are there. It would not feel right if you weren't.
If the timing works, I will be there. And Tim basically said, we'll just make the timing work. So I'm going to be on... behind the curtain, we typically record these on Tuesdays. Well, the next couple of Tuesdays, I am filling in on Marvel Alliance for Travis Snell, who has some work commitments that came up. So I'm going to be with Chris Balgo on those. And I told Tim, it's like, if you do it one of these 2 Tuesdays, I'm already committed. Sorry, I can't do it. He's like, well, we'll just pick another time. Great. All right, I'll watch it.
Yeah, well, we gotta have the. I mean, we do have a Spider-Man crew at this point.
I'll tell you, the people who get up in arms about differences from the comics. I'm like, guys, have you seen this one? This is where it all started.
Look, I warn everybody. I've said this multiple times. It's like when people use the phrase "worst comic book movie I've ever seen." Every time somebody says it and I look at the movie they're talking about, whatever it is, whether it's Marvel or DC, my first instinct is you haven't watched a lot of comic book movies. Because and I guarantee I can find one that is worse than whatever you think it is.
Well,
and, from whatever era.
We'll see what everyone thinks of this one. It's definitely interesting.
Yeah, I caught I haven't fully watched it, but I caught some glimpses of it, and it's like, all right, buckle up.
Yep.
Here we go, for sure. But yeah, so that's coming up next. And then, of course, there's tons of other Patreon content available as well. So hope everybody's enjoying it. And as always, cannot thank you enough for your support to the Squadcast Media Network.
Okay, let's get to it for the week. We've got some Disney Plus casting to talk about. First up, let's talk about the more recent of the two, because we actually missed one last week. I had taken it out of the notes and didn't get it put back in when I was rearranging them all. This week, Ms. Marvel. We have our Ms. Marvel, Iman Vellani, I believe is how you say her name. She is a newcomer. I don't know her from anything. I don't think anybody knows her from anything. So for me, this is where I'm just going to have to trust in Marvel and Feige and Sarah Finn, Marvel's casting director, and just be like, yeah, Kevin and Sarah, I'm good with their casting so far. I don't have any complaints about their casting so far, so I'm going to have to trust that this is just going to be another one. I'm mainly just excited that, hey, Ms. Marvel, we've got some concrete, more news coming out about it, because that is one that I am eagerly anticipating. She is, between her and Miles Morales, they're like the two biggest breakout comic book characters of the last 5 to 10 years. And obviously there have been others. I'm not saying there's not others, but nobody on the scale of those two. I'm eagerly waiting to see what they do with her in live action.
This is one of those types of decisions that me personally, I'd like to see more of, right? Like everybody, whenever people do fan casts for roles, they always end up picking, everybody picks actors that they know, right? And names that are visible. And you like to see newcomers. You like to see people get an opportunity to really make a name for themselves, especially a character like Ms. Marvel. And I haven't read a ton of Ms. Marvel. I've read a little. I have read a little, because a couple of her, when I was, years ago, when I was reading Civil War II, which I didn't finish.
Good.
And I was reading, you've all said that. No one has had a good word edgewise to say about Civil War II.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But like the tie-in issues, I was reading the tie-in issues with that as well. She had a couple. She did have a few of them. And so that's like been my only introduction to the character, really. But like, I like the her character has the potential to really have some weight, socially speaking, with audiences, especially in terms of representation, what her character brings. And I don't know the entirety of Kamala Khan's like background, but I do know that Iman Vellani, she's a Canadian actress, but she's born to Muslim immigrants from Pakistan.
Perfect.
So that really sounds like accuracy.
Mm-hmm. No, that's
with
perfect.
Respect to
Absolutely
casting.
Perfect.
Okay, so and that's what you want to see.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely what you want to see today with respect to casting a role like this. That is good, right? That works. And so yeah, I mean, come on. At this point, wherever you sit in terms of your opinion of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the one thing that we've always been able to say is we can't say it hasn't been successful. It most certainly has. So we're in a position where you do have to trust, or at least you should give Feige and the casting people the benefit of the doubt with respect to their decisions on this, because they just haven't failed. I mean, subjectively speaking.
Sure.
Well, in terms of box office, that is not subjective. Box office is completely objective.
Wrapping yourself up in what you're trying to say here, but I think we get your point. You just
you
subjectively casting, objectively from the financial results. Yes, we're with you. We're with you.
You know how our audience is. You know how our fandoms are. I got to do this in order, because someone will say, "Well, and it's like, I thought you said it was all subjective." It is. with respect to opinions. But as far as there are certain that we've said this, box office and like tangible success is measurable. And from that perspective, we should give Feige the benefit of the doubt with respect to these casting decisions. We'll see how it works out, but I don't see a reason to doubt this going in at all. So yeah, can't wait to see the newcomer.
So I had told the Marvel Alliance guys that I felt like a character like Ms. Marvel, I really wanted to see somebody new, somebody exactly what we got, someone I've never heard of, brand new, younger star in the making, let's say, to come into the world. But a character like She-Hulk, somebody I don't necessarily need like the big massive name that is won several Oscars and box office draw on her. I don't need that, but I'd like somebody established. And Tatiana Maslany has been cast as She-Hulk. I am not familiar with her work, but I am definitely going to check out Orphan Black because everybody has told me if you've seen Orphan Black, you will understand why she was cast. I know a little bit about the show, but you understand why she was cast in the role of She-Hulk, where as Jennifer Walters and as She-Hulk, she's going to be playing two very different personalities of characters, but the same character. So I'm excited for this casting because this is basically what I thought there. Somebody who I have heard of. She is more established. She's just not a massive megastar. Have you seen Orphan Black, or are you familiar with Maslany from any of her other work?
I have not seen Orphan Black. It's been on my list.
Do you know what it's about?
Cloning.
Yes, which is the word I heard that made me say, okay, I'll check it out because I like clones, as we've established. Yes, so I'm like, all right, you've got my interest. So
I'm kind of surprised you haven't watched it because it's definitely a clone. Like it's one of those roles that, from what I'm aware of, like she's having to play multiple versions of herself.
Right.
And I mean, even more so than perhaps like Tom Cavanaugh has done for years.
Yeah, or it kind of reminded me of the, I think it's called Living With Myself, the Paul Rudd Netflix show where he was cloned, and which I really enjoyed that. I think I heard that Orphan Black is on Amazon Prime. I'm trying to check now. It is. Orphan Black is on Prime, so which is great. That'll make it really easy for me to check out.
This is totally a reason to watch that for myself as well. So also Perry Mason recently just wrapped up its first season on HBO and HBO Max. Mm-hmm. Scott watched that. He said it was really good, and she's in that as well. Right, so right. I kind of want to check that out too. I think we've got some time before She-Hulk.
Oh yeah, we got time.
So yeah, but funny enough, she's also Canadian. She's also a Canadian actress. So Marvel seems to be going up north for their acting choices lately, which, hey,
whatever works.
No issues. That's perfectly fine. But yeah, I saw Mark Ruffalo send her like a congratulatory, like welcome to the family.
Cuz called her Cuz.
He did call her Cuz. Yeah. You gotta believe we'll see him. Yes or no? I don't know the.
There's been rumors. There's been rumors.
I don't know the history of the character. I mean, she was also in Civil War II briefly.
Yeah.
Like here and there. But I don't know like exactly what her connection to Bruce Banner is. So I defer to your knowledge on that one.
They're cousins. She got in an accident. She's hurt. She needs a blood transfusion. Bruce Banner is the only one available for it. For whatever reason, she becomes She-Hulk because obviously his blood is irradiated with gamma. And so the transfusion happened when he was Bruce Banner. I've heard some people saying, well, how did they get the needle in Hulk's arm? They didn't. They got it in Bruce Banner's arm, who willingly did it. He wasn't under duress. He wasn't angry. He wasn't about to Hulk out. And so anyway, the blood transfusion is what did it. And some people I know are kind of like, that seems so hokey and comic booky and whatever. But I'm like, I think it's fine. I think it'll work for today. You put him in a scenario where he's the only one available or only his blood will work. And he has to decide whether or not to do the risk. And he does. And for her, it pays off. Now, in the comics more recently, she is more of a savage She-Hulk. She's a lot more like the green angry monster you see in the earlier Avengers movies. Personally, I much prefer it when she is and has been traditionally has her full faculties among her, has argued court cases because she's a lawyer, often for other superheroes. She's argued court cases as She-Hulk, not just as Jennifer Walters. Dan Slott had a really good run with her, though, looking at both sides of the story and she's really meek and how do I put this? She doesn't have a lot of self-esteem as Jennifer Walters, whereas She-Hulk like her personality changes. She's super confident in herself. She's confident in who she is as a woman. She's confident in her appearance. And Dan Slott had a great run, and others have had runs as well that I enjoyed related to that. But I would encourage people to check out those if you wanted to read more. Either way, I do think you're right. We got some time before She-Hulk. That's not exactly next up on the block.
Cool. Well, then, yeah. Hopefully we can get in Orphan Black and maybe Perry Mason and, get a better feel for her acting style in preparation for that.
Yeah, Orphan Black, I'm probably, unless my wife wants to watch it, it'll probably become the show that I watch whenever I finish The Boys Season 2, which I'm only 2 episodes in. No spoilers, please. But that is I've got the time, and I'm not playing a video game right now. I'm not playing Avengers or whatever, so that's when Orphan Black is probably going to be next there.
Sounds good. So you would think that, we had those, and those are like from this week and the week prior.
Mm-hmm.
And those actually aren't even the biggest ones.
No.
Here comes the big one.
The Oscar winner.
And it's yes. I keep forgetting he won an Oscar for Ray. Mm-hmm. Yes. We're talking Jamie Foxx, who is returning as Electro.
So weird. Who expected that? Nobody.
Look, we had our thing last year after Far From Home came out about legacy casting, because you called me out on the carpet for my opinion on J.K. Simmons being in the end of that film.
So how do you feel about this one?
This one is okay. It's weird. It is weird.
It's weird.
Because, it's not because it's legacy casting. I mean, is it a little weird that it's a legacy casting from 6 years ago? Yeah. I mean, is it weird because it's a legacy casting from a Sony Spider-Man film? Yes. But really, the reason that it's weird is because it's Electro. Specifically, like, like how we've talked before about how, Ryan Reynolds was, a crappy Deadpool in X-Men Origins Wolverine, and he was Hal Jordan in Green Lantern, and then he came.
I'm not going to say he was a crappy Hal Jordan. I can't go with you on that, but
no. But a lot of people were okay. The movie.
Let's stick to the Deadpool premise. That's more fitting. I still like the Green Lantern movie for whatever it is. So
gotcha. Well, we talk about the redemption stories. Like him coming back as Deadpool, or the better one obviously is Chris Evans. Who was Human Torch in the first couple of Fantastic Four movies, right. Comes back as Captain America. For people that didn't necessarily care for Superman Returns, Brandon Routh, resurrected as Ray Palmer, although people want to see him as Superman again. So
yes, we do.
Maybe that's a bad example after Crisis on Infinite Earths.
I told you, just stick with your Deadpool example.
Fair enough. So that's the thing is you would, if your immediate thought is if Jamie Foxx is coming to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it would be as a different character, not the same character he played in the Sony films. That's where it's like, all right, what are you doing? And I understand why all of my timeline immediately went multiverse. That's all this was. That's all the timeline on Twitter was. As soon as this came out, multiverse. Oh my goodness, they're doing Spider-Verse. They're doing this. They're doing that. It's clear. Here's the evidence. Okay. Can I please remind everyone, this is the same franchise that told us it's all connected. Where I sit, Brent, I need Feige. And yes, I know Max Borg and a couple of others already brought up, well, that was the Ike Perlmutter, Kevin Feige, whatever. Yes, I get that. I still need official, I'm the official word person, I guess. Marvel needs to tell me they're doing multiverse.
I'm not convinced. Okay. There's so much to unpack on this. First of all, my first reaction is why? Why Jamie Foxx as Electro? But my next reaction is basically like, okay, if you think back to Amazing Spider-Man 2, not a very good Spider-Man movie. Visually, really cool. Some really cool visual stuff with Spider-Man and Jamie Foxx fighting each other. Jamie Foxx is a fantastic, fantastic actor. You know, I most recently saw him in Just Mercy with Michael B. Jordan. Great movie, highly recommended. They both did phenomenal jobs in this movie. Fox is a fantastic actor, so if you just ignore the history, and I tell you, Jamie Foxx is going to be Electro in the MCU Spider-Man movie, everybody would be like, this is a win. Great actor, phenomenal. Oh, now we got to look at the baggage, though. Is this Michael Keaton returning as his original role of the Batman in the Flash movie, or is this J.K. Simmons playing the same character but a new interpretation of it? I think it's the Simmons model, because he's since taken it down, but Fox basically put a post on Instagram saying he's excited to be back with Spider-Man and he's not going to be blue this time. Traditionally, the blue look comes from Ultimate Spider-Man. The traditional Electro has a green and yellow costume. I wouldn't be at all surprised if we got something along those lines. But there are so many questions. And I even said, screw it, give me a live-action Spider-Verse. I don't care. I'm open to what they're doing. I don't hate any of those Spider-Man movies. The Garfield ones, the Maguire ones, that's fine. Some are better than others, absolutely. But if they want to pull and cherry pick from it, and I don't know if you ever read it, but Feige gave notes on Amazing Spider-Man 2, and those notes leaked out during the Sony hack from a few years ago. In those notes, he tells them, this scene is weird, you don't need it, but I love Electro. And so they're like, this thing with Electro is off, but we love it. So Feige's been a fan of Electro since Amazing Spider-Man 2 came out. I'm not surprised to see this. We know, you say you need Feige to tell you they're doing Spider-Verse. Sure, I'm with you. But we know for a fact they're doing multiverse. For starters, they already go into alternate timelines in Endgame. They see alternate versions of themselves. It is not the exact same version. They are different timelines. They're not on a linear path. Not to mention, Doctor Strange 1 mentions the multiverse. Doctor Strange 2 is literally called in the Multiverse of Madness. Loki is a different Loki. The Loki we've watched is currently dead. It's Loki, so I expect him to come back at some point. But a new Loki from 2012 at the post-Avengers movie, is the one the TV show is following. We know they're looking into the multiverse already. That's all on board. The biggest questions is, are they doing it with Sony? And I'm not willing to say yes. I'm not willing to say no. It's all on the table right now. There are so many rumors right now. There are so many rumors flying around that... people are already talking about the same stuff that happened when the Keaton news came out. Oh, is Michelle Pfeiffer going to come back? What about Kirsten Dunst? Is she going to come back as Mary Jane? Yes, there are actual rumors floating around saying this. I don't buy into them yet, but I can't ignore them at the same time. I wouldn't have expected this unless the Sony and Marvel relationship is on a pretty strong foot right now. And especially stronger than where it was a year ago when they went through their divorce. And there is signs, there is evidence to point that maybe things are going well between the two companies. Olivia Wilde's got her Spider-Woman or Spider-related female-led thing. She herself has said, I got to be careful what I say because I don't want to make Kevin mad. She's not talking about a different random Kevin, just to be clear. We don't know that it's connected, but it's there. There was the thing on Shop Disney with an ad advertising Disney Plus from last week where Spider-Man Far From Home was listed as one of the movies available on Disney Plus. It's not on there yet. The ad got taken down. It got replaced with the Captain America the First Avenger one. But that's a weird mistake to happen. A really weird mistake to have happen. And so right now I feel like we don't have the concrete evidence, but we've got like circumstantial evidence, let's say, that Sony and Marvel are playing well together. I know there was fresh rumors, like within the last week and a half, of Sony still wanting to play ball with the MCU. We know that they're already trying to do that with Michael Keaton being in Morbius. We know they want to do that. Maybe Feige's on board. I don't know for sure, but either way, like bringing in something from the Sony era, the Sony only era, let's call it, I don't feel like that happens if they are still fighting with each other, if things are still highly tension, like lots of high tensions. And it is interesting that unless you want to count like the hologram of Sandman, which I don't, but somebody would mention it if I don't say it, this would be the first Sony villain to make an appearance in an MCU movie. We haven't seen Green Goblin, we haven't seen Dr. Octopus, we haven't seen the Lizard. This would basically be the first one. We haven't seen Venom. I guess I call out the other one. There was Sandman in Spider-Man 3, and there was, let's call it a Sandman Easter egg in Far From Home. This would be the first time they used Electro. Now Marvel's... There are so many questions and paths that you can go down on trying to figure this out. Or it could be as simple as the J.K. Simmons thing. Who's going to be better at J. Jonah Jameson than J.K. Simmons? Nobody. He is J. Jonah Jameson. And maybe that's how Feige feels about Electro and Jamie Foxx.
Okay, couple things real quick. As far as your multiverse evidence, there is one thing that I take issue with what you're saying.
Go ahead.
There is a difference between time travel and multiverse.
Yes, but they're not traveling in a linear time. That's the big difference. They are going into other dimensions.
And no, that's not how time travel works. Even because it's not other dimensions; it's alternate timelines. And even though it's not linear, it's just an alternate timeline. Now, the thing that people are pointing to, the biggest evidence of this that for multiverse is Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And that's why, quite honestly, one of the biggest things we're going to be paying attention to in the near future is WandaVision. Mm-hmm. Because that could give us a biggest glimpse into this.
Absolutely.
But as far as all the stuff that happened in Endgame, no, that's not evidence of multiverse. That's just evidence of alternate timelines. Like when
you talk multiverse and alternate timelines, I think we're splitting hairs there. Tomato.
No, there's a difference. And listeners, Stu, there's a difference. No, I'm serious. There's a difference with it. And again, I'm not saying that they're not doing multiverse, because everything else that you said does point to that.
Well, I didn't even mention Far From Home. It was a red herring, but they still were like, let's throw the multiverse in the face of the audience for 10 minutes. I didn't even think of that.
Well, that was the first thing that I thought of, and that was when when we were talking multiverse on Twitter. That's why I said Far From Home was a red herring. I don't count that as evidence. But funny, you were talking about rumors. As far as Sony and Marvel playing nice, I haven't had any reason in the last year or so to think that they're not. Part of the reason is because one of the last rumors I heard was Tom Holland and Tom Hardy crossing paths. That rumor had happened. I don't remember.
I think that's inevitable. I really do.
Well, I don't remember if it was like earlier this year or if it was like late last year. I remember, because Venom 2 is still a movie that we're waiting for. And I forget, it has Rise of Carnage?
Let There Be Carnage.
Let There Be Carnage, right. Venom Let There Be Carnage is still out there, floating in the ether, like it's happened. It's either happened, he finished.
I think it's in the can.
Yeah, because he's off doing the Batman.
Because people were like, how's he going to do Batman and Venom at the same time? Well, I think Venom is done.
Yeah, so that's still out there. So that was the first rumor that came out that was like, oh, they're playing ball. Because those types of rumors, I know that a lot of us want to see that happen, but they come from somewhere. And that just seems, to me, that seemed plausible. That at some point, yes, they would do that. And that's what I would like to see. Now, we can argue up and down, and we probably would on Twitter, as far as whether or not Tom Holland is the most suitable Spider-Man to face off against Tom Hardy. I don't know about that. As far as favorite Spider-Man, mine is probably Garfield for me. I really liked, and regardless of how people feel about either of the movies, especially the second one, I thought Andrew Garfield was a fantastic Peter Parker and Spider-Man, and he's the best one as far as the wisecracks, in my opinion, between the three of them. In my opinion, I'm not saying that the others, I'm not saying that Tobey or Tom Holland can't do the wisecracks, but like Garfield was the best smartass as far as like that aspect of the character, and I really dug that and liked that. And I also liked the chemistry that he had with Gwen Stacy.
Oh my gosh, with Emma Stone, that was amazing.
It was fantastic. If we're talking about, honestly, if we're ranking the chemistry between the love interests, that's even better than Tobey and Kirsten Dunst,
who had so little to begin with. They were not a good example. Like if someone wants to tell me Holland and Zendaya, okay, I get why. I get that one. Emma Stone and Garfield, I get that one. Kirsten Dunst and Tobey Maguire, I'm sorry, no.
I would say that Garfield and Stone is even better than Holland and Zendaya.
And I'm not saying I totally get why people would say that.
Yeah, and I'm not saying Holland and Zendaya don't have chemistry. Obviously they do, and it does work. It was one of the highlights for Far From Home for me. But like we have like you said, it's circumstantial. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of guesses, and I am just not willing to jump. I'm just not willing to jump into the pool just yet, like so many others are.
Yeah, we shouldn't be saying take it to the bank. Spider-Man 3 is a Spider-Verse movie. We don't know that to be true. All I will tell you is today, it is on the table that we are going to see some sort of live action take on the Spider-Verse movie. That we may see Tom Holland with another Spider-Man, that we may see him with Garfield or Maguire. Or could you imagine how great it would be to see him with both? That'd be amazing. It may happen. Yeah. It also may not. It may just literally be, I like Jamie Foxx, I like Electro, I want to have Jamie Foxx play Electro. And that's fine. You don't need to do anything more than that.
Well, and that's another reason why I would like people, I really hope that people kind of pump the brakes on this, because it feels like we've been down this road before with these adaptations, with these comic book properties, where we see a glimpse of evidence of something that could happen, and then we build our hopes up for it. So there's a potential that all these people build up their hopes for Spider-Verse, and when it ends up being Feige just likes Electro and wanted him in the movie, now you're disappointed and you hate the third Spider-Man because it wasn't what you wanted.
So let's
avoid that.
Let's acknowledge the other very strong, I think, stronger possibility for what's happening with Electro in Spider-Man 3. And let me be clear, I would actually, if it were my decision, I want to resolve the hanging plot thread of his identity is outed, of Peter's identity is outed. I want to see that before I would want to see any kind of multiverse. Yeah, he is a presumed criminal.
He's outed as a framed criminal.
It is, a lot of people, myself included, have thought like maybe Kraven is coming. Like, it's really set up for Kraven to hunt the spider, right? Well, with Electro coming, people are saying, well, why would you choose Electro? Forget the Jamie Foxx stuff. Forget why Electro. And to me, the words Sinister Six come to mind. Electro is a mainstay of the Sinister Six. We know Sony has had interest in doing that. And I'll tell you, if the next movie was Sinister Six, maybe bring back Keaton's Vulture. Maybe bring back Gyllenhaal's Mysterio, because who really thinks he's dead? It's super easy for him to come back if they want him to. You've got Max Gargan as the Scorpion. We saw him in Homecoming 1. You could fill in with the Tinkerer if you wanted, who was in Homecoming, the guy that made all the gadgets for the Vulture.
Can we get Ock, please? Let's get Ock.
A lot of people have been saying
I love Alfred Molina, sure. But let's I love Alfred Molina's version from Spider-Man 2, yes. But let's I want to see another Ock. I like Ock.
It is. I mean, I didn't even think of this. Who's directing Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness? Didn't even think about that. So, like, yes, there are reasons to hope. Right now, the current deal is one more solo movie, one more team up movie. The next movie, titled Spider-Man, You Can't Go Home Again, because that's the hill I'm dying on. That movie is not going to count as the team-up movie. So we will see him in something else. Captain Marvel 2, Secret Invasion, whatever. You know, there's rumors floating around there. Whatever other movie we're going to see him in. But maybe there's a deal that we don't know about. Maybe Olivia Wilde's movie is going to be. The possibilities are there. And I, for one, as I've said many times, and this changes nothing, I did not love the Venom movie. I did not even really like the Venom movie. I've softened on the Venom movie. I am willing to accept that. If it means we can, if they'll play ball together and the Marvel Universe can have access to the Spider assets, I am fine with that. And even with Tom Hardy, maybe it's a case of maybe for me, Tom Hardy as Venom is just like Jamie Foxx as Electro. The actor is good. The rest of it is where it fell down. The writing, the direction is where it fell down for me. Maybe I'll feel, we got, like you said, Circus coming in to direct Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Maybe I'll love Hardy's performance in that, love that movie, and then I'll be all on board with it. That could be the type of thing. I am just excited I'm obviously excited at any Spider-Man news, and I'm excited at any news that even gives the vaguest indication that Sony and Marvel are still playing nice together, because I don't think Sony is that close to being sold off. I think it's inevitable that Sony Pictures is going to get sold by Sony corporate. I just don't think we're that close to it. So for now, I want them all to play nice to each other, with each other.
I feel you on that. I personally, as someone that thoroughly enjoyed Venom from the beginning, people go back and listen to our review. One of us is happy, one of us is not.
That's true.
in that review. I am hoping personally that the Venom films are like a reverse Guardians of the Galaxy for you, where you didn't dig the first one, but you really dig the second one.
Yeah.
And obviously the best case scenario for fandom is that Sony and Marvel are playing nice and that everybody gets to play in that sandbox. Mm-hmm. That is the best case scenario. I mean, I think that's what a lot of us are hoping for. I mean, I'm sure there are people that want the Sony ones to stay separate because of their animosity towards the MCU and they don't want to see this happen or whatever. Yes,
there's also people that want them separate because of their animosity to the SPUMC. Like that goes very much both ways. I'm just the guy who's like, can't we all just get along so I can have Spider-Man fight alongside the Hulk or fight alongside Captain America?
You have preached Spider-Verse logic from the beginning. You have used Into the Spider-Verse as your model for how the fandom should be with respect to different interpretations, and I agree with that. I think it is the best way to look at this. And yeah, I'm not getting my hopes up, but if you give me a movie that has Tobey and Andrew Garfield along with Holland, and they're facing off again, and they're dealing with Jamie Foxx's Electro with the green and yellow, which I doubt that the MCU will give him a comic accurate look. They'll probably just make his
I'll predict
lightning green and yellow.
I'm going to predict neck down is fairly accurate. That headpiece, I don't know.
I don't know
about the headpiece.
They're not giving him the headpiece. No, they're not. And you know what? And I saw somebody, I do agree with this. At the very least, if you don't make him that different from his version in Amazing Spider-Man 2, just please change his origin and like his meek side. Like that was the part of the character I didn't dig.
Right.
Was like his origin story. Like when he was Electro, that was awesome. But sure. the origin of it, that was one of the weaker aspects of that film, in my opinion.
I'll tell you this: when we get to Amazing Spider-Man 2 on Squadcast Movies, and it's still a ways off, I will be watching it with very different eyes than I would have been a week ago.
Yes,
because I will be paying way more attention to Jamie Foxx.
Absolutely, I think that's the case for all of us, for sure. For any of us that rewatch it.
All right. Well, I think we both come down on the side of that being a mostly positive story. Let's totally shift gears and talk about something that's probably most people would consider very negative. Cineworld is closing, one of the UK's biggest theater chains, and they're the ones who own Regal in the US, which, unless I'm mistaken, is the number 2 movie theater chain in the US, behind AMC. Basically, it sounds like when No Time to Die, the new Bond movie, got delayed, they're like, okay, there's nothing else for us. We're closing. I mean, obviously there are other movies coming out this year, but it's a long time between now and the currently scheduled Dune and Wonder Woman at the end of December, in the back half of December. So this definitely sucks. It's going to affect thousands of people who are losing their jobs, maybe temporarily, but either way, who can just afford to be up and out of work for a few months? I mean, this is really, it's tragic for those families. And it's definitely not a good sign for theaters in general. What I read says Cineworld was still planning on reopening, but I mean, really, are they going to? When you close, you never know if you'll be able to open again.
Yeah, and sadly, we've been dealing with this for months now in the States. Theaters have been closed in several different areas, and I've mentioned before a number that are not coming back, like the AMC Star Southfield in Michigan that was around for over 20 years has shuttered its doors. It is not coming back. There are other smaller theaters that we know are not coming back as well. And, we had No Time to Die, that just recently happened, but before that we kind of had a bit of an exodus. Marvel we talked last week, Marvel moved a bunch of their movies, all their movies, to 2021. Black Widow no longer this year, now May of next year, and that pushed back Eternals and Shang-Chi as well. And I think what has happened is Tenet wasn't what everybody was hoping. It certainly wasn't what Warner Brothers was hoping. And Mulan certainly hasn't worked out now, several reasons, not just because of the release structure, why that worked out the way that it did. But I think that there were hopes of a restart for theatrical presentation and movies in general, at the beginning of fall. Has not worked out nearly the way that everyone was hoping. And so this has caused studios to, hit the pause button on any restart plans and push everything off to next year. Next year is going to be a huge logjam. And I do think that, if you can't have a major theater chain like this shut down, and then you have, we also had, I don't know if you noticed, Brent, but over the last week we've had a decent amount of actors and different creatives that have actually been imploring Congress to bail movie theaters out.
I hadn't seen it, but I'm not really surprised by it.
Yeah, there's a push for that because they're now legitimately concerned. I mean, we've always had this concern, but they're now definitely more concerned that there's a chance that movie theaters will not survive this. What is happening with COVID-19. And so you gotta feel like Wonder Woman is up for another date change.
Oh, I have zero expectation of seeing that movie in December, unless they radically shift their thinking, which frankly I don't think Warner Brothers is capable of doing, and put it on HBO Max.
Warner Brothers.
Yes.
Warner Media may have different thoughts, and they may butt heads on that.
True.
But Warner Brothers, I agree with you. They're not in any they're not in any position. They're not in any position to do that. I mean, there are other legalities that they've got to deal with as well. So we'll see how many of them are making decisions for that much longer.
True.
But at any rate, as far as the general landscape of this, yeah, it's awful. You know, I months ago I mentioned how, you know, Lionsgate was doing that special fundraiser for a month where they were showing movies on YouTube, and you could donate to the Will Rogers Motion Picture Foundation for out of work cinema workers. I donated to it, you know, because it is tough. It's very tough. These are lives, families affected by this. You know, people that are out of work, and you know, for an extended period of time. Yeah, it is going to be very difficult. It's not going to be a 100% return if Cinemark comes back, if Cineworld comes back, and if Regal comes back. It's not going to be a 100%, you know, like everyone is back to full strength. That's just unfortunately not going to happen. This has gone on too long. This has drawn out too long, and it's sad. It is. It's unfortunate, because this is not the way that you want to see the transition happen. When we talk about the transition from theatrical presentation to digital, you don't want to see it putting people out of work. You don't want to see it abrupt. You don't want to see it hit people, you know, especially you're already dealing with a pandemic, and now you're dealing with not being able to put food on the table. That's awful. That is absolutely awful, and it's sad and it's unfortunate. But you know, I think it is important for us to remember that this goes way beyond our ability to see a movie in a theater or not. People's lives are affected on this, and that's unfortunate. You hope that they can come back, but yeah, as of right now, no. It's somber. It is. It's somber news to see something like this.
And then the last thing this week we wanted to touch on was an example of what Disney did with Artemis Fowl, where they, instead of releasing it in theaters, they just put it straight to Disney+. You said HBO Max is now getting one of these. Ray, what's that about? Because I hadn't heard of this.
The Witches, which that is a reboot that I completely forgot. The original film, which I want to say, was that 80s? Or is that 90s? But it's based on, it's a Roald Dahl novel. Roald Dahl, of course, writer of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and James and the Giant Peach. So it's one of those types of weird stories. And it is. I haven't read the book, but I've seen the original movie, or the older movie, rather, with Angelica Houston and Rowan Atkinson. And I'd completely forgotten that they were doing this reboot, which is starring Anne Hathaway and Octavia Spencer, and also Stanley Tucci. They've changed the setting. I didn't know this, but Guillermo del Toro apparently was originally writing the screenplay, and then I think he moved away from the project, but they've taken elements of his script. And Robert Zemeckis, who is directing the film, people would know him, obviously, director of Back to the Future trilogy, director of Polar Express, Forrest Gump, number of other films, classic director. One of the titans out there for sure. But he is directing and is one of the co-writers of this, along with Kenya Barris, creator of Blackish.
Okay.
So there are some changes in terms of the setting and the time frame of this, but this reboot was originally scheduled to be a theatrical, essentially a Halloween release. And then they had pushed it back, and now they have decided, no, we're going to go back to our original October release, but now it's going to be a Max original. And the first trailer that we got for it a couple of days ago absolutely has the Max original branding on it. So yes, this is an Artemis Fowl situation. They made this movie and they were totally going to release it in theaters, and now they have decided to release it on HBO Max. I'm very intrigued. I originally wouldn't have seen this movie in theaters. I'm going to watch it on HBO Max.
There you go. I will. I haven't seen the trailer, so I'll have to check out the trailer and then make that call. Okay, so before we sign off, let's let you know we are going to do a second episode that'll drop later this week. I don't know, Wednesday, Thursday, something like that. It'll drop later in the week. We've got quite a bank of listener Q&A save that we just haven't had the time to get to. So we're just going to devote a whole episode to it. So look for that later in the week. So with that in mind, we'd love to hear any feedback you guys might have. You can email us at borderlessfans@gmail.com.
And we're also on Twitter. I'm at the Flightcast.
I'm at Brent Prime. The show is at Borderless Fans.
And as always, you can find us and the other shows in our network at squadcastmedia.com.
See you later.
Take care, guys. Stay safe.